Hello, hello. Day Drinking with David back again. It's a pretty interesting day today. Got a bunch of beautiful rum. Welcoming the owner, founder of a new brand of single-cask rums. Here is Eric himself, Mr. Kaye, joining us. What a pleasure to be drinking rum with you during the day. I guess it's probably nearly nighttime for you, but I've just had a lovely lunch, and here you are.
Hey, how's
Eric,
it going?
thanks so much for being here. What a pleasure.
Thanks for having me. I need to stand a little bit away from my phone there. So
give yourself some space, yeah. So welcome. Day
Thank
drinking.
you.
It's really good to have you here. We're like so into your rum. I'm really
Awesome.
really digging what you're doing. For people who don't know already, Eric's has started really not the first American bottler of rum, of course not, but the first single cask, in the sort of classic European style bottler of rum that I know of. I mean, is there one that I'm missing? I can't think of anybody.
There's a few smaller people been doing independent bottlings, one-offs here and there, but nothing to the scale like Europe.
Yeah, and of course Ed Hamilton's been bringing in rum for years and bottling them under his label.
Right.
Very rarely doing single casks, although we've seen a couple here and there.
He started that way, and then he went to the continually produced line. He started with some amazing St. Lucia rums, which are all gone now.
They are all gone. I couldn't believe the distributor, just the other day, was finally okay, we're done with the St. Lucia. Every time I ordered it, I was just shocked, and now it's gone.
It's gone.
And apparently, according to him, he's been cut off, but who knows?
Yeah, everybody's been cut off from St. Lucia. They're doing it all themselves now, which, more power to them.
Yeah, good for them. Whatever. I think, we've had some good success with some of the chairmen. The interesting thing is, of course, there's such a diversity behind the rum category. It's such a complicated place. And people don't really have good information about it because, to be honest, the people who sell it don't really want to talk about how complicated it is. They just want to say, hey, this tastes great, and, have a Mai Tai, whatever. But it's, of course, a lot of our suppliers are changing that, and you're certainly one of them. Before we get started, tell us about how your journey to rum, and where are you from? I don't know anything about you personally.
So no worries. I'm in New York, and I've been drinking rum for many 30 years probably, and drinking really, really good rums for probably the past 20.
Yeah, know that feeling.
When I first discovered it, it was, I'd been getting more and more. And then 2003, I had a fateful trip to Barbados and Guyana, where I stumbled upon some 25-year-old El Dorado along with the Mount Gay Tricentennial Edition, which had just come out. And I'm like, this is the greatest spirit I've ever had in my life.
Yeah. Wow, so you've actually been to Guyana?
Oh, yeah.
Aren't a lot of people I know that have been. I was there in 2012 or 13, and I mean, it's a totally wild place, but I totally fell in love. It was such an experience. I mean, so it's an unusual country, to say the least.
There's nothing like Guyana. I mean, it's mostly jungle, and then you got a little sleepy city at the mangrove swamps. There's no scuba diving. There's no beaches.
No. A giant wooden church, and then of course all this amazing rum.
Some of the best rum in the world.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you've been there. So you fell in love with rum, and when did you decide? Were you in the industry already? Or?
No. I've spent most of the last 25 years in the music industry, mostly writing music for advertising and film and TV.
Nice.
And doing a lot of that, and I just got increasingly tired of not being able to get the rums I wanted in America. I would go to Europe, and I would see these incredible bottlings that were not here and nobody would ship here. And then I would go down to the Caribbean, and I'd see these amazing distilleries that were just not even exported to the States at all,
Yeah.
or Europe. I'm like, why is nobody doing this? How hard could it be? And me, not coming from the spirits industry, had no idea how hard it really is to do this, which
Yeah.
is why nobody had done it before. But at this
Yeah.
point, I was too far in and committed. Um,
That's the way it goes. Like once you dip your toe, it's hard to get back out.
right. I
I
figured
I
what,
commend you. It is a huge hill to climb. I mean, we've been lucky that, we're able to work with interesting bottlers in Europe, but of course they're doing a lot of the hard stuff. And very few of them, which you've done in some cases, are bottling at the distillery.
yeah,
That's a real, in a lot of ways, a real coup. I mean, there are a couple, but they're few and far between. So sorry, I cut you off there. What were you?
I don't even remember.
Okay, good.
But
So yeah, lay us on
yeah,
the story. Like, where is that? Where does that become from that trip to Guyana? How
all
does that
right.
turn into a business?
Remember what I was going to say? Well, I said, there's got to be at least, hopefully, some people that would want rum cask strength with no additives like I do. So, we'll start off with 4 barrels, and worst case scenario, I'll be out, good amount of money, but I'll have enough rum to drink for the rest of my life. And we sold them out like the first release in like a month. I'm like, okay. So that was a Barbados we started with. It was a
Right.
Foursquare distillery. Um, an aside on Foursquare, I think they're making some of the best rum in the world. Richard Seal is a master. So, that's a safe pick to start with a cask strength Foursquare, which at that point in time, there hadn't been a 62% or 64% Foursquare released in the States.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Since that he's been doing it because he saw, there is a market here.
Yeah.
So we started with that, and then for the second round, which we're going to be tasting through today, I really wanted to show the huge diversity of rum because, it really is vastly different. In Scotland with whiskey, you're talking about Islay, Speyside, and it's still all whiskey for the most part. I mean, you can really tell the difference between an Islay malt and a Speyside. But when you're talking about a Barbados rum to a Guyana Port Mourant to a Fiji, I mean, these are almost completely different spirits.
Well, and I think I totally agree with that. I mean, in the case of Scotch, you're affecting the inputs, but here, I mean, of course, you have different varietals of cane, which are important. Although a lot of distilleries are just importing whatever cane they can get, to be honest, because
Right.
very few of them can supply their own demands on island.
Hmm.
Um, and sometimes they're doing almost exactly the same thing, on paper,
Right.
but it tastes totally different. And
And
rum is so much more complex. I mean, rum is like saying whiskey times 10, because you say, oh, I drink whiskey. Well, you're talking bourbon, or you're talking Irish, or you're
right.
talking Scotch, or you're talking Japanese. And then, multiply that by 100, and now you're talking about the sort of diversity that exists in the rum category.
Exactly. And the reason, I mean, there's 3 different base distillates you can use. You can start with molasses, you can start with fresh cane juice, or you can start with cane syrup. And
Mm,
they're going to all affect it. And then different lengths and types of fermentation. You can do open air, which they do a lot of in Jamaica to really,
hmm
get a lot of wild yeasts and funk and great heavy flavor and esters. And then you've got your pot still versus your column still versus your mix and all
hmm
of these, and then the climate, which,
Of course.
something done on the mountains in Martinique is going to be very different than, Fiji.
Right. And not to mention, that's only if half of the flavor there, then you age it for 10 plus years,
Right.
tropically or continentally, all these different factors, first, second, third fill, port cask, what have you, I mean, there's so much there. And I think that's in a lot of ways what the big producers have been afraid of is it's harder, it's more work to sell it that way. And you're never going to do the volumes that a big company wants to do in
Right.
this realm, but there's value there, and there's certainly value. There's these sorts of products validate themselves. The quality is there. You don't need to gussy it up with a bunch of junk
Right.
to make it delicious. So it's a prescient move on your part. No
Dumb luck,
doubt.
maybe. But,
Oh,
I think you hit on a really good thing on the volume of the made distillers. To them, a 2 or 3 thousand bottle release is so small as not to be worth doing for a lot of things. But for us, we've never done something as much as 2,000 bottles yet. That's
yeah,
a big release. That's
yeah,
eight barrels.
and can you talk a little bit about how you deal with these producers? I mean, I know obviously you must have a relationship with Richard directly,
Hmm.
because he's in a unique position to actually own and operate his own distillery.
Right.
But most people can't just pick up the phone and be like, yeah, that sounds fun, let's do it. And they have other things. So are you buying? I'm unclear as to which ones you're buying
Hmm.
direct. I mean, I'd be shocked to hear that you're buying directly from our friends in Guyana,
Not
because
yet.
that seems
Not
to
yet.
be off. I've been bugging them for years about that. It's not the easiest thing to get done. Um, but I presume you've started that relationship.
Oh,
That's important, of course.
yeah.
Uh, uh,
Working on all of those. Barbados and the way Richard Seal prefers to do it for all of his independent bottlers, which he's really supportive of, but he insists go through a broker in Liverpool for that.
right. The
So,
broker in
yeah,
Liverpool.
the broker in Liverpool. So this came via Liverpool as per his request. He's like, yes, you can use our name on the label. I'm fully supportive of this, but just so I don't have to deal with 8,000 independent bottlers all over Europe calling to me, these are my guys. This is how
Buy
you
from them.
get the barrels. Yeah.
Cool.
And which I
Cool.
respect because he's
Yeah,
got his own business to run.
no doubt.
But as we're growing, we're starting to do more and more directly with distillers and preferably bottling at the distillers, which to me
Mm.
is still the best, which we did with our Belize release. This one here was our first, we call it dependent bottling because we did this in collaboration with them at the distillery. Um,
Well, and if anybody knows Travelers, it's like famous in Belize, but nobody knows it here. And you have a couple of small brands that poke out. We get, of course, the one barrel here, which is very inexpensive and,
right.
you know, does it, it works. But we've never really seen anything out of Travelers that's like this. Certainly not this age, and definitely not cast strength. So,
And they
uh,
haven't done one.
no,
And I spoke to, and they make their one barrel because that's what Belizeans like, and that's how they like it.
hmm
It's
hmm
36% ABV down in Belize,
right,
because that's the way the Belizeans like it, and
yeah,
they don't have a big export market. It's not a big country. It's not a big distillery. So what they make is mostly, for their market. And when
yeah.
I told them that I, wanted to put out a cast strength, fully aged, they looked at me like I was crazy. They're like, "Really? 61%? Nobody's gonna drink."
And
And they
voila,
were
here.
shocked, yeah, shocked to see it in the Rob report and everything else. It's a lot of pride, and
Yeah.
I really love to be able to do that with them
Well, it's
rather than
interesting that they have old barrels at this distillery, but there's nowhere
not
to sell.
anymore.
Not because they don't sell. I mean, I guess there's a 5 barrel that's available down there, which I guess is 5 year.
Five
One barrel
years.
is one year,
Hmm.
but I'd never heard of anything more than that. And I remember once, God, I forget his name. The guy from Travelers came, who like looks like a pirate. I mean, he's like straight up like I think he had an
Probably.
eye patch on. For uh,
Who would that be? I
I
mean,
forget who it was. Who knows? This was 10 years ago, and I
right.
wanted to be like, hey, when are we getting it? And they were just like, we don't do that. Like, we're not gonna give you older stuff. Like, it doesn't exist.
Uh,
And I was like, well, I know there's a 5 barrel, and they're like, well, no, there's not. And you're like,
they
yeah,
do
there
have
is.
one. They have a
Yeah.
Dono Mario special blend, which is a 10-year named after their father and founder.
Ah, ah.
And that's about 45%, I think. And that
Oh,
doesn't come out every year.
I've
They
never
still,
seen it in the States. Certainly, it's
it's
Belize
never
only.
been to the States. It's Belize only. You get at the airport or at the distillery, and that's a great rum. And that
Mm,
was what first gave me the idea when I tasted that Dono Mario.
hmm
I'm like, I want to do this, but at full cast strength, not at 45%
Yeah, yeah. Very cool stuff.
and
Well,
older.
yeah. get it old, get it dark. It's very, very fun stuff. And so this is your second round, and you've got already another round coming. Can you talk a little bit about sort of where you see the future of single cask rum? Are you going to focus on the Caribbeans? I know you have a Fiji, which is cool. Where's Holmes Cay going to go from here?
Oh, we've got a great year coming up. This year is going to focus some more on the Caribbean with some Jamaica and Guyana. And then we're going to be looking further afield to Africa. We've got a couple of different countries in Africa we're going to bring out this year.
Very cool. Very cool. There's definitely some stuff out there that's not making it out here. So that's
none of it. Yeah, one of it's never been here before, and the other's been here, but not in cask strength and single barrel versions of it.
Right. Very cool.
So I don't want to jump the gun until we actually have the barrels here.
Of course. And these would be things you'd buy direct from the distilleries and bottle here?
Well, one of them we're going to bottle them in New York State. Both of them.
Cool.
We're shipping the bulk. And we do have another Fiji coming out probably in May, which will be a blend.
Do you get those from Europe as well, or are you going to Fiji?
Yeah, Fiji. The Fiji supply has been cut off now that Plantation has sort of have an exclusive on the Fiji distillery.
Juice.
So what we have left are the dwindling stocks in Europe. But we managed to create a wonderful blend, which is going to be our first blended single origin rum as opposed to a single cask.
Okay, cool. Expanding the portfolio a little bit there.
Yeah, just trying to stretch out. We did our first secondary maturation this year as well, which people call a cask finish, which we'd never done. But when we bought the 2 barrels of Foursquare, we bought 2 other barrels at the same time and immediately put them in port casks for a year, not knowing whether anything would happen. And by the time a year came up, they went very quickly. I think you have a couple of cases left there.
Yeah,
that's it for that release. Hopefully there'll be some more coming next September, October. We immediately rushed to get 5 more barrels of port casks. So come October, we'll have more of that.
And what are you finding? Do you have sort of one expression is it the Foursquare is the one that people are most interested in, or there's just a diversity of interest?
At first that was the only one, but Foursquare is one of those rums that's really well represented in this arena by the distillery itself. Richard has done an amazing job of putting out cask strength, not necessarily single barrel, but exceptional cask series, he calls them. And they're phenomenal.
Yeah.
But the Belize has never been here, so there's been a lot of interest in the Belize. The Fiji, we've sold out of everything almost to date. So really, there's been a strong interest in all of them so far.
Great.
Knock on glass here.
Well, keep putting good rum in the glass, and we'll keep selling it. So it's an easy formula. If you can find the rum, that's the key. I mean, now it's I remember back in the day, when we first started bringing in, we bring in the Golden Devil line, which is the Kill Devil equivalent. It's Hunter
Great
Lang's
stuff.
Yeah,
I love
Hunter
it.
Lang. And the number of Hamdens, we were like, well, they're like, well, we have these 5 casks, and we're like, well, this one's just a little bit better. We'll take that one, and then throwing 16-year-old Hamden out into the wolves, and just if we had just bought them now, we would have been, in such a great position. And there's so many stories like that. It's outrageous. But we knew they were good, but we, 4 or 5 years ago, it wasn't as obvious. It is, there was no one. There's always been the great rum community, which is a very, again, diverse, just like the spirits. It's not everybody thinks of tiki torches and, but you have the whole, which is a great part of the rum, culture, but that's just one slice of it. But it's a small community. And they're very, very tight knit in a way that bourbon guys, for instance, spend a lot of time talking about bourbon to everybody they know, and rum guys are a little more, you know,
They're insular, you
tight.
know.
Yeah, they're a little more introverted. I was, as a generalization. Of course, they're not introverted. They love to party and have fun, and but like with their rum friends, and they're not out
Yeah,
there. I think partly because they know that they found something that's still undiscovered, and
yeah.
you know, the more you talk about it, the more likely it is for someone to buy those bottles up from under you. And so there you go.
We're seeing a lot of crossover and interest from the bourbon community who
Yeah.
are either getting priced out or fed up with the bourbon world. They're like, you know, this rum scene seems kind of cool, and you get way more for your money. You know,
Yeah.
a 12-year tropically aged rum is the equivalent of an 18 to 20-year-old whiskey,
Yeah. Yeah.
in terms of the angel share loss and everything, and it's half the price.
Mm. Yeah. No, easily. Yeah. I couldn't agree more. Um, we've got a strong sort of push in our customer base toward the high ester Jamaicans,
Hmm.
particularly, of course, Hamden, but of course the whole, you know, the whole island is making such a, you know, I think a high quality of rum. Um, Tell us about this Jamaican that you're bringing out. I don't have it here, so I thought we'd talk about it before we start
Yeah,
tasting.
we just bottled it this week, actually.
That's exciting.
It's a 10-year-old from the Monimusk Clarendon Distillery in
Cool.
Jamaica, and it's in the Wedderburn style, which is a medium ester. It's, you
Hmm.
know, 2 to 300 generally is the ester count,
Yeah.
which brings it way above like an Appleton's, but way below one of those Hamden Funk Bombs, which,
Which are at the
um,
1,000 plus.
yeah. So,
Interesting.
and
Is
that
that continentally aged?
a little bit of both. That
Hmm.
had 3 years in Jamaica and 7 in the UK.
Mm.
Later this year, we're going to be bringing out some 100% tropically aged Jamaicans that we're going to bottle down in Jamaica. Um, so it's going to be another dependent bottling we're going to be doing down there.
Very cool.
I'm
Very cool.
excited about those.
That
That
is
should be in the
awesome.
fall.
Wow. Yeah, we were, you know, we're really happy to see them, you know, the distilleries themselves. And I think, you know, there's a there's a lot of talk about continental versus tropical versus, you know,
Hmm.
and for me it's the same as anything else. It's a matter of taste. You know, you know, I personally love that tropical style because, but I go to it when I'm feeling like, you know, like drinking bourbon or something like that. You know, when you want more
Yeah.
wood, more. Uh, we just brought in a Hamden through Golden Devil. It's a 12-year that's uh, like Sea Diamond H, like the full
Oh,
on
good stuff.
100, and I mean, it's absolutely delicious, but it's the sort of thing where you know, you take one sip and your whole night is done, you know, changed. Like
Yeah.
you're done. Like that's it. You're stuck with the spirit the whole night.
It's a
And
meal.
yeah, it's a whole culture in itself. I mean, you have to really love it. Although, you know, one thing that has happened over the last 10 years for me is that people are gravitating to things with more flavor.
Hmm.
You know, and that's something culturally, I think, and also simply the knowledge base is there. It's very, very easy to gain knowledge, and there's so much
Hmm.
information out there. You know, I'm learning new stuff about rum every time I research it. And there, you know, we've got this guy. I don't know if you follow By Rectifier on Instagram. This
No, but
guy,
I
oh,
will.
check his stuff out. He's got these old like what he's creating esters. He's I don't really know. I haven't dived into his personal situation. He's obviously in the auxiliary business somehow. But he's done all this research about the old styles and has these old logs of Jamaican rum styles and the same for Scotch, and it's really, really interesting stuff. And this stuff we
That's
could never have
great.
found out without
No.
the current social media atmosphere. So pluses and minuses, of course.
Yeah, I mean the
But
historians have been doing amazing. The rum historians that go there, there's a few of them.
yeah, there are a
Really.
couple really good guys, and Jamaica is particularly. I mean, that said, you know, I had the same experience I had in Barbados that I did in Guyana because you know we have these sort of preconceived notions of the Caribbean of what to expect based on the other places I've been in the Caribbean,
Hmm.
and it couldn't have been further. I mean, Barbados is another island where, man, I could just spend months. Like, I love the
Yeah.
people. The food is off. I was shocked at the food at just at like the like rum shack. You
Yeah.
know, you're paying a couple bucks for like the whatever the flying fish that they caught a second ago, deep fried, and like twice fried potatoes and the best hot sauce in the world. And I mean, Barbados just surprised me.
Now all we need is the pandemic to be over so we can all go back down there.
I know, God, I cannot wait. My whole life has been a plan to get places, and now they've just got me stuck here.
I
But at
literally have
least,
10 countries on hold that I'm
oh yeah,
supposed to
there's
have visited over the last year, all
it's
rum
nuts.
producing.
It's another good thing about getting in the rum game. I mean, you end up in some pretty nice looking
Yeah,
places.
you get to write off your trips to the Caribbean and Fiji and these wonderful places around the world.
Feels pretty good.
And yeah, I'm working. It's work.
Well, it's I'd love to taste through some of these with you, and you can give me
Sure.
your impressions and tell me a little bit. I've got the '05 Guyana, the '03.
Hmm.
That's the Port Mourant. That's new, right? I haven't tasted that yet.
Uh,
The
the O3, the iFlot, is not out
oh,
yet.
I thought, yeah, I thought.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, yeah.
Um,
And
I,
um,
w- I
where
would
should we start?
say I would say we start with the port cask,
Great,
if you have
Barbados.
that one. Yes, Barbados. So this was a 2009 Foursquare that we switched over to port casks in New York when we got here.
Great. So you bulked it in and then put it into
We
port
brought
casks.
2 barrels in, right? We brought the
Where's
two
your
barrel.
facility? Upstate, you said?
It's upstate in upstate New York, a place called 5 and 20 Spirits. They make a great rye and a bourbon up there. It's also the same place that Ed Hamilton bottles,
Right.
which
Yeah.
is,
Okay.
Ed turned us on to them, and it's like, yeah, these guys are honest, they're competent, they're great, and they have been.
Mm, great.
Uh,
That's
um,
good.
and they also have a winery, so they have access to some
Some
good
cool
wine
barrels.
casks. Yeah.
That's great.
So the
Mm,
genesis of this was I really wanted to see if I could recreate Foursquare's original port cask release, which was their first special and which is now gone. And if you can find a bottle, it's $500.
yeah, I remember that
When
one.
it, yeah, it was like $35, $40 when it came out like 3 years ago or 4 years ago. So I thought, maybe I could get close to it if I sort of did the same thing. And I completely failed at that. What we came out with is absolutely nothing like Foursquare's port cask. But it's its own thing. It really,
Yeah, good rum and good barrels. It's not going to go wrong. Great color on there. It's not as dark as Richard's, of course,
no.
but that was, I remember that was it the Zinfandel that was like motor oil dark, or I know I think it was
No,
the
the
port
port
cask.
cask. Yeah,
Yeah, it
the
was
Zinfandel was lighter.
lighter, yeah, and very pinkish. I remember being
Right. That one is Gail
kind of
Steele's favorite rum, the Zinfandel
really,
cask. Yeah.
no kidding. I'm surprised they
She's like,
haven't
if
done
you ever
any
see any, get
really.
one for me because we're out of them, and that's gone.
I'm surprised that they don't do more of that.
Mm,
Um, wow, lots of fruit. You do get the pottiness behind the pot still, which is great. Do you
yeah.
know the proportional blend here, or it's the standard? We don't know.
Well, he likes to keep that. He says transparency means you don't have to reveal everything. So Richard still keeps, certain secrets to himself.
Yes.
My guess is it's somewhere between 30 and 35% pot still.
Yeah. Yeah, and we've only tasted, God, once the pure pot still in the Velier, the Habitation Velier line,
Right.
which was
So,
a coup. But I have to say, it's pot still, but it's not super super
so
funky.
the holy grail that, those of us, most of the Europeans, and, we're trying to get a hold of in Liverpool, there's a bunch of barrels of 2002 Foursquare that's 100% pot still, which was really rare, really unusual, and they're not selling them yet. They're like, nope, not yet. We'll let you know. My guess is they're going to wait till they're 20 years old,
and
and
charge you $1,000 a liter.
I'm
Uh,
sure. and they'll disappear like that because
It,
he doesn't release pot still rums.
yeah, do you think he has something to do with them not selling it? Is it sort of like
Yeah, I don't know what they're waiting for. Waiting till it's 20 years, waiting. But, the good thing also about continental, everybody's like tropical is the only way to go. Continental aging is valid, especially when you're going beyond 15 years for most
mm,
rums. It's rare you'll get a full tropically aged doesn't.
up? Yeah, yeah, of course. Yeah, or the Netherlands. Uh, is it still the Dutch? Like I know that there are German brokers as well, but is it still the Dutch that are so in control of those supply chains? And then there's no oh, I'm losing you here. Yeah. Well, in Liverpool, I think, yeah, which I think is, in a lot of ways they've been crucial to the expansion of these various brands. And because all of them are buying from I can't I haven't yet found another source that's that's obvious, and there's maybe one German company, but that's obvious that will sit there and sell you barrels. I mean, we attempted 3 4 years ago to go direct with them, and you know it's a very enticing proposition, but back then it was too much to handle. Just it was, because we're not bottlers, we're a store, and the market wasn't quite there yet. But everybody's having trouble hearing. I think it was just Eric was getting a call. That's why, guys. It's back. Yeah, when it's ringing, we lose it, but it's all good. Um, we didn't miss much. This is delightful, by the way. It's super easy going, great balance, lots of texture. The sweetness, I think, from the port has really integrated well. Yeah. Huh. Eric, they're saying they still can't hear you. That's weird because I can hear you. Still no audio. What a strange situation. Give it a shot. Who knows? I think I have to kick you out, or maybe you're. Yeah, there we go. We'll try this again. How weird. Okay. That's fun little rum. This Podcast Barbados, guys. Jump on that before. I mean, we got like 30 bottles for California. It's nuts. Sergio still can't hear Eric, but of course we're okay. We're going live again. It's weird that I can hear you, but nobody else can. How strange. Can't see it. Yeah, Eric jumped off. Can everybody hear Eric
Okay.
now? Something with the stream.
How about now?
Everybody happy? Anyway, we'll
All
post it
right.
later. You guys can. The recording will be fine, I'm sure. I don't know what's going on with the internet today. Um, but as long as we can chat. Oh, thumbs up, Sally
Thumbs up.
Reiner. Thank
Yay.
you. So that's delightful. So you got this in how many barrels?
Two
The
barrels.
2 barrels. Okay,
Just 2 barrels.
two
That
barrels.
was the first, two of the first four we purchased. We took two and we bottled them, and we took two and we put them in port casks. And
And did you? Oh God, it's delicious. Um, did the bulk rum come in like 1,000 liter tote, or do you separate the
no,
barrels in?
they came in
They came
barrels.
in
Yeah,
in the barrel. That's
in
great.
the barrel. Yeah, we actually shipped
Perfect.
wooden barrels here. We had to file Lacey Act declarations to ensure
Yeah, it's
that the
not
wood,
easy. It
no, we
wasn't
had
gonna
to,
infect us with their diseases.
no
Yeah.
endangered species, no pesticides in there. but
You're
we
on the
got,
list now, Eric.
yeah, we can import wood.
That's shocking.
Um,
It's not easy.
so
Delish. So next, where do we go?
we go to Belize, which we
All
talked about a
right.
little bit, and this
Yes.
one, our dependent bottling,
I love
with
that. I love that term. Clever.
and this color is, it's hard to believe there's no coloring added, no caramel. This is just 15 years tropically aged, and they just insulated their warehouse. Before that, they were losing 10% a year, which
Mm,
is,
what a
crazy.
bummer.
Yeah. So
Wow.
this, you do
Wow.
get a bit of the oak in this,
No
but
doubt.
you get a lot of black currants and cherries and
So you just went to Belize and walked into the Travelers Distillery and like, I want to buy a barrel?
uh, I had originally met them in London
Oh,
at
okay.
the London Rum Fest, and the day before the public fest, there's a trade show for all of the companies to do business, and that's when I tried the Don Mario and said, "Wow, let's do a full strength version of this." And 2 weeks after I got back from London, I hopped on a plane to Belize and met the Perdomo family,
Very cool.
who run it still, and I went through and I tasted about 30 or 40 barrels, and this was the oldest they had in the warehouse, and we took all of them.
Great. Very cool. I wonder, tell us a little bit about the distillery because I've never been in there. We're molasses-based column distillate here.
Hmm.
What's fermentation like in this tank?
36 hours using Fermapan baker's yeast. No
Wow.
wild yeasts, no extended. It's quick, and they
And
distill to a
efficient.
high proof and efficient. It's an old 3-column manually operated column still,
That's kind of
of
cool.
which only 2 of the columns are in use. The third column they're not even utilizing.
Wow.
And they distill to a really high proof, as high as 95%. And then this is really, how they make the cuts, and the aging brings so much to this.
Hmm.
When you let it sit there and evaporate
So
for
steel tank open. No, it's all covered
fermentation. Yeah,
fermentation.
yeah.
Okay. And and so this goes into barrel. Do you have an idea of what sort of proof it must cut down
High.
to?
Yeah, they cut it down to the high
70.
70s. Yeah.
Okay.
Because after 15 years, it was in the mid. This one was, I think, 66, 67, and it was a little too hot. We
Yeah.
brought it down. We brought this one down to 61.
Hmm.
Um, so, we have two phrases: barrel proof and cask strength. And barrel proof is when you take it right out and do nothing. And to me, as long as you keep it over 50%, that's cask strength, I would say. So this
Hmm.
one has been proofed down from 66 to 61.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
The terminology
Semantics.
would be
Yeah,
disputed by the single malt drinkers, but
I'm sure.
it's fine. It's rum. Everybody's got a
Yeah,
word for something.
it's either proofed down before it goes into the barrels or after the barrels.
Yeah, absolutely. I wonder also, what is there? Is this statically aged? Are we in the barrel and they don't touch it, or are they marrying barrels? And they must,
Yeah,
right?
no, they have to. They do marry barrels of the
Yeah,
same batch because they're losing too. There'd be nothing left after 10 years.
right. So what is that? Once a year, every couple of years,
Yeah,
or
every 2 years or so, they'll
interesting.
combine the barrels.
And
So
warehousing is just like
they have
open
two.
earth.
They have two warehouses, one at the distillery in Belmopan and one at the actual bottling plant, which is in Belize City.
Cool.
And they age differently because one is inland, a little higher, and the other one's at the coast. And the stuff that
Hmm.
ages at the coast to me is a little more flavorful. So this
Interesting.
is coastally aged.
Wow. Yeah. Of course, big oak, but it's not a flavorless distillate despite the high proof. I mean, it's not just
No,
we're getting just wood. There's other things going on there. Wow. Big sort of cinnamony, clovey, nutmeggy finish. Fun stuff. Fun stuff.
yeah,
Very unique.
I get people surprised that so much flavor comes out of a column still because you associate column still generally with Bacardis and the mass
Hmm.
produced. But this is not one of those massive multi-still column stills.
Yet they are getting up that high proof off
They are.
yeah. That's a very unusual and interesting selection there. That might be one for the bourbon guys. I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
Yeah, that wood is for sure prominent. But a very, very fun product, and an interesting, our first dependent bottling of
So
rum. Well, I
the,
guess that's the new terminology. I'm going to use that. I can't wait.
the oak guys, the rum fans that love the oaky stuff, we call termites.
Nice. I'm sure they love
The
that.
rum termites, because they love the wood in the rum.
Yeah, yeah. I've been there. I've been there. My taste, I have very diverse taste. So I'll some days I'll be in the mood for something like that. Other days I'll want a continentally aged Jamaican funk bomb that's basically clear. So who knows? I see both of your Guyanas are relatively light. I mean, the eye flute's a little
Yeah.
bit darker,
Hmm.
but I was surprised to find out. Are we doing those next or Fiji?
I would do the Guyanas next. I've
Okay,
got to grab some iFlot, because give me 1 second.
no problem.
I didn't know if we'd be going through that one because it's not in stock yet.
Well,
But
I'm gonna drink it. So
I have one now. So
great.
yeah, I would do the iFlot, because this will be out in about a couple of weeks.
Thank you for pronouncing it properly. Everybody has
Yes.
so much trouble. I didn't
Yeah.
catch it. I didn't catch the proper terminology until I was there years ago. But so this is a 2003, bottled
Two,
in 2021, so very
right.
recently,
Hmm.
at
This one,
barrel proof. So this is
yeah,
no
this one
water.
came straight out of the barrel at 51%.
Okay.
Um, and this had a couple of more years. The Port Mourant is lighter in color because it was all continentally aged. It had no aging in Guyana at all.
Mm. Oh,
Whereas
lovely.
the iFlat had a couple of years in there.
And tell us about iFlot. This is the column still.
So this
Of
is no longer at iFlat. iFlat Estate was a
course.
famed distillery and estate, and they had a 4-column French Saval still. It was a metal still from the 19th century. They have several historic stills down in Guyana,
It's incredible.
and each one of them gives a completely different flavor profile. Um,
Totally.
and this one, this ancient column still, it really, and even on this column still alone, they can make such a huge range of rums.
Right. Right. They do a light, a heavy, and a very light. This is lovely.
This drink's way too easy, dangerous rum.
Hmm.
So we have 858 bottles of this, is what we bottled.
And you're bottling each cask separately, so you have the cask number on the
Yeah.
bottle. Do
Hmm.
you find a big variation between the casks, or some pretty good consistency,
They're remarkably consistent. Um,
particularly with the continentally aged stuff? I'd
yeah,
assume.
the continentally aged stuff. I believe a lot of that gets, the dirty secret is a lot of it gets shipped over in IBC totes and then recast once they get over there. So
Yeah. So
it
they're
really
blending
is
it.
consistent. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then,
Which I guess in some ways they're doing similar things in tropically, because I mean even in Jamaica, places where they statically age as opposed to some of the more French style aging where they're topping up and aerating like a brandy almost.
right.
Um, they're still consolidating. I was surprised to see I bought a 14-year Worthy Park from the distillery,
Hmm.
and they had given us a selection of casks of various ages, and the 8 to 10-year-old stuff, the barrels were only 130, 150 bottles, but the 14-year-old was 220, and I'm sitting
Right.
there like, well, how is that possible? Obviously, these should be statically aged. I mean, that's what how they
Right.
describe it. And they're like, yeah, after about 10 years, we got to do it. And they put 3 or 4 barrels together, and blah blah.
Yeah, they have to,
But
and everybody does that. That's
no,
just
there's
the way it's
nothing
done.
you can't avoid it, because otherwise you just have. Sorry.
Who froze?
Yeah, that was me.
Oh, there you go.
This is lovely. This is lovely. So this is a couple more years in the tropics. One thing I wonder, I found out while I was down there that
Hmm.
that at El Dorado, the owners or Diamond Estate that own these stills now, it's a conglomerate of the old distillers.
Hmm.
Guyana is a very
Right.
complicated place politically, and they color before aging. Have you heard about this? Can you distinguish which are, like,
I
when you're
have heard of
buying
that.
rum? Can you distinguish which are colored in advance of aging and not, or is it impossible? Nobody talks. Nobody. If it's really dark, okay.
If it's dark, like, yeah, if it's really dark, obvious. But it wouldn't surprise me if they put a little spirit caramel in here. I mean, there's no
Yeah,
sugar in here, obviously. But, just looking at the color, it wouldn't have
before
shocked
aging.
me if they added a
Yeah.
little.
Yeah, I was surprised
Yeah.
there that they were telling
But
us
that,
they weren't using standard caramel. I don't know if it was lost in translation or what, that they were coloring with molasses. And I just didn't. They said, "Well, we make our own coloring," and we're like, "What are you talking about?" They're like, "Yeah, we make it ourselves." That's very.
yeah, I don't really know. I don't want to, speak out on that because
Well,
I don't know the facts. So I'm not gonna,
yeah,
state
you're one of
something
the
one
few
way or the
people.
other
Oh,
about
absolutely. No, I,
a
I
company that
love
makes
I love
wonderful
their
rum.
regular stuff. I mean, I couldn't.
Yeah.
My greatest dream is to sit in Guyana with Sean drinking. I mean, drinking a bottle of 12 year. Like, that's all I want to do. Straight up. Um,
Yeah. Why color it?
People
What's the
like
purpose?
dark stuff.
There's a couple of reasons people color rum. Yeah, I mean, companies like Myers and, there's recipes that call for dark rums, which is basically just rum with spirit caramel added to make it look darker. It doesn't affect the flavor at all. This is purely, darker. Some people think darker is older, which is untrue. Um, and then the other reason people use caramel is for consistency. If you're releasing a continually released product and you want it all to look the same, you'll want to adjust the color so it all looks like the same. If you have two different shades of rum in the same bottle
It's
next to each
weird.
other on the shelf,
Yeah, and to be honest,
it wouldn't look
we've
right.
got the
Yeah, it's
most
weird.
advanced customer base in the world, and we still get questions about that sort of stuff. When you have a couple of, no coloring bottlings from Scotland or whatever, and you see two different colors, people are weirded out by it. Oh, am I getting gypped? There's something wrong with it? And you're like, no, 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 it's just
Yeah.
au natural. Totally.
And this has been done for hundreds of years. Hundreds of years they've been coloring caramel,
Yeah.
spirit caramel, which is not sweet at all.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
really a
It's
bitter
pretty
caramel even.
intense stuff.
So it's very different than
It is
adding
very different
sugar.
from adding, which is, that I don't want to. I won't get into El Dorado. Let's let it lie. Let's just get them to bottle you some rum, and then I'll be happy. I can stop asking questions. So on to the
Right.
Port Mourant, one of my favorite stills. This is the double retort
Which,
pot
yes,
still, or I guess it's not really a double retort. It's a double wooden pot.
it's a
There's
double
one
wooden
retort,
pot
two
still.
pots.
There's two pots.
So it's a double
Yeah.
pot, single retort, 2005 vintage. Great light color there. Um, I'm a huge fan of Port Morant.
To me,
Yeah,
that's the most famous still in the rum world. It's such a iconic
yeah.
double wooden, and it's actually made of wood. And every few years they
This
replace
is
the
it.
wood section by section.
Oh, I love
And
this.
it's instantly
Yeah,
recognizable.
they look like two giant barrels with copper swan necks coming out the top, and I was surprised actually at how
Yeah.
the distillation is driven when you're there. It's not very obvious, but they're steam injected, and the first still
Hmm.
uh, injects into the second. So they fill both sides, inject steam into the top, that heats it, and that creates steam, which is injected into the second still. And I don't believe they are forcing steam into the second still at all. I think it's just from the first still, and then that gets
I don't think so.
transmitted to the retort, the sort of steel rectifier thing, or it's not really rectifier, a condenser, not condenser either. I don't know what the retort, how to explain the retort, but it's a nutso spirit, really wild stuff.
Like, this is one even a beginner could do a blind tasting and pick this out of a lineup. It's got such a unique flavor
especially
profile.
when it's not hampered by a bunch of wood, I would say.
Or a Sauterne cask. It was really like that mixed with Chateau d'Yquem in the same glass.
Too much.
And it just
give me the
not something
just
you
give
want
me
to
the
drink.
Sauterne by itself.
It's a shame.
I'll drink them next to each other. I mean, listen, I'm all for experimentation. I think there are definitely things that can be done, but sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. So voila. I find wine casks are way harder than those. You can get a decent fortified wine. Dry wine is much more difficult than, not dry wine, but non-fortified wine. I think it's less stable and you have more inconsistency and more potential for things going off. So right,
and you've
got
to use it quicker too. With the port casks and the fortified, you have to be wary of sulfur because a lot of the casks get sulfured, and you don't want to put rum in a sulfur.
So they're getting sulfured before shipping, and then you wash them out.
You steam them, or you ask
the
for
reason
one
they're doing that
been
because
sulfured.
they're trying to preserve the wood from going off. But of course, if if you're filling it quickly, not as big an issue, because that doesn't, alcohol obviously kills bacteria too and yeast. So if it's filled with high proof alcohol, you're probably going to be okay.
You want the right bacteria. You can get a bad, like a corked wine. It's just not,
no doubt,
not something you necessarily want in your rum.
Lovely. Dig it.
Love day drinking.
Yeah, you're still at work, I see. And me too.
Absolutely.
I figured out how I put myself on what's it called, on Do Not Disturb, which helps a lot. But people still get through. It's nuts. I just ignore them.
Oh, no. I'm afraid of losing you if I do that.
We're almost done. Our final rum of the afternoon.
Final rum. I saved this one for last. It's hard to say you have a favorite. They're all like your babies. But this Fiji, to me, this was really special. And this was the second one we put out along with the Port Mourant. And it was a big step because it was not a cheap barrel. It really wasn't. And I had no idea. I knew people would buy Foursquare because of its reputation. But at this point, Fiji had no reputation in the States. It really was not big. It was it was more expensive than the Foursquare. And I honestly had no idea if people would respond to it the way I did. And it just made Rob report as the 9th best rum of the 21st century.
We've only seen it.
So
I think we've only seen it besides the recent plantation stuff. Barry's did a bottling not too long ago. That said, that rum was a funk bomb. This is much more refined. You said you've been to Fiji? Tell us about this distillery. Oh, you haven't. You're planning to go.
I've not been to Fiji, but the one that turned me on to Fiji originally was a 2001 Samaroli bottling of it from Italy, and I'm like, wow, this is awesome. And so South Pacific Distillery, it's the only distillery in the whole country, and it's owned by the local Coca-Cola bottler in Fiji. And they've got a couple of pot still, a couple of John Doerr stills and a column still, and they've just been making, amazing rums and not really releasing them. They put them, they released them in Fiji, obviously, and in Australia And occasionally, now all of a sudden, with plantation, there's going to be a lot
Yeah,
more
and
Fiji
they've
rum
now released a brand here. I don't know
available.
if you. I think it's them, right? Rum of Fiji. It's got to be. Yeah,
Yeah, they're in
yeah, yeah,
rum of Fiji in California only right now. They have the Bati and the Ratu. One's a
yeah.
column still, one's a
The
pot column
non-flavored
blend.
ones are pretty solid.
Um,
Totally. Yeah,
but
they're
younger, both
a few
younger.
years
I
old.
think the
Yeah,
old
totally.
different world.
It
And
is.
this is
I'm
100% pot
surprised. I'm
still,
surprised it's
which is not
100% because
something they put out. Yeah.
it's got the maybe it's the age. It's the age plus the esters. It's just got this beautiful, just super pungent, but not rotten. It doesn't have any of that. I mean, it's similarity to Jamaica for sure, but it doesn't have that nutso rotten thing.
You To me, the difference is instead
Okay,
of rotten
nice. Yeah,
bananas, it's
it's
cooked
gorgeous.
pineapple. That the way,
Yeah,
it's much more of
very
like the South Pacific tropical fruits, the
totally.
mangoes, the pineapples, the it's a
Mm,
different kind of tropical fruit. And I don't know how much of that is due to aging on the other side of the world or not, or
it's
just our imagination,
delish.
but
Holy moly.
it's
No doubt.
it's
Yeah.
distinct from a Caribbean
Do you have an
rum.
idea of what sort
Like
of ester
this
count
is
something like
not
this would? No. Okay.
no idea
Dive deep,
whatsoever.
that
I
deep.
did not, you know,
Yeah.
it's one of those things where like,
Drink
shit,
up.
that's good.
This is some pretty special stuff, man. I'm
Yeah,
so
yeah,
happy we've got this. I, I'm
I
afraid
am
now because
too.
I got a kid. I'm gonna have to try to spit this out. It's not easy.
And where the Fiji
Mm,
availability is going to sort of decrease in the coming years, as now it's all going
mm,
exclusively to plantations. So the stocks in Amsterdam and the stocks
yeah,
in the UK, once
that's
they're
a bummer.
gone, they're gone.
So does that mean
Um,
rum of Fiji or the Coca-Cola plant is selling directly to plantation now? Is that yeah? Mm,
yes,
hmm
yeah, they have a
I hadn't
partnership.
yeah I hadn't realized it was
They have
exclusive.
an
Voila.
exclusive
Well,
partnership.
we'll savor it while we can.
So, but the good thing is
Nice,
I still have four
nice,
more barrels of it that
delish.
we're going to bottle this
Same
year.
vintage.
So that that'll be same vintage.
You
It'll
can
be a
do
year older. So
one a year
it'll
until
be
it's what 21
17
or
year Fiji.
no?
Or we could just put all four out and then everyone will come out
Right
with
on.
something else in 2022. It's like it's meant to
Yeah,
be. To me, I don't want it
yeah.
to get over oaked. To me, it's like perfect.
I get it.
16,
I get it.
17 years.
Until we try and until we try it at
It's my
25.
baby.
You never know. But these are
Yeah.
so fun, man. Thank you so much for stopping by. I'm so, honored to be a partner with you and looking forward to all the stuff that you're going to be doing. Let's do a single barrel for the store. How about that? Yeah, fine.
Would love to do a single barrel for the store.
I'm
Any
down. We
country
can
you
get
want,
weird
we'll
with
make it
it. If you
happen.
want to do something totally different, can't ever go wrong with high ester Jamaica. That works for me too. You tell us what's good.
We've got
Mm,
some. We've got
I
some
like
Long
Long
Pond
Pond.
coming. That
Well, we
could
got
be
a
an
long
option.
year ahead, so
Um,
luckily no tariffs on rum yet, thank God. But hopefully that'll be the end of that soon.
yeah.
We got still about 17 people here. Any questions for Eric before I let him go? Rum nerds tend to have lots of questions, but seems like we covered it pretty well.
I'm showing
Oh, well, there you go.
26 people.
Nice.
Let's see if I can. He's back. I can't see, can't hear. I'm
It
sorry
was
that
just for a little second. I think
the
we
audio
got it
came
back.
out, but um,
Oh, it's such a pleasure,
thank
man.
you
Hopefully
for
next time we'll
having
actually be
me.
able
It
to enjoy a
was,
glass together. Yes.
in person.
Yeah, give me a reason to
Yes,
come to New York. I'd
looking
love to
forward to
come out to the
that. We'll
distillery and taste
hopefully
some
all.
casks. Maybe we can select a cask out there. That would be fun. I don't
Uh,
know.
if I just swung that way so you could see the 2 feet of snow outside,
Okay.
I'd much rather be out in
Well,
California given the
when they let
choice.
us move at all, we'll figure something out. There we go.
Yeah,
That's
or we
smart.
just meet
Yeah,
in
that's what I
Guyana
want.
or
I want
Jamaica.
a
Well,
tropically aged Port Mourant, bottled in Guyana.
because we are aging
Very cool.
stocks
That's
in
awesome.
Jamaica
I
as we
love it.
speak right now.
Uh,
So
someone asked a question, but I don't understand it.
You know,
Goy? Joy? Anyway, Borgo? I don't know what that means.
Borgo?
Oh,
Borgo is a Suriname run.
Suriname.
Yes, yes. That is, it's not going to happen this year because we're backed up, but 2022,
I
I'm hoping
remember
to
being in a
bring a
bar in
Suriname
Guyana
rum
with
to
the
market.
team from El Dorado from Diamond Estate and being like, you know, you're just being honest, like
Hmm.
Guyana's like a pretty wild place. Like a lot of crazy stuff happens here. And they go, what are you talking about? And they, is this just normal life? It's like, well, first of all, we're at a sports bar in the middle of nowhere. It's like WWF everywhere, which is so odd. And like everybody's got an opinion about the NFL. I'm like, I've never heard of anybody caring about the NFL besides Americans, and voila, and you know, and then whatever. It's just a wild. It's just a wild place. Trying to explain it to me, they're like, oh no, go to Suriname. That place is nuts. You can do anything in Suriname. There are no rules. Okay, probably.
And they say the same about the Guyanese. They say, we're civilized. Yeah, Guyana looks to the Caribbean. They take a lot of, they consider themselves more of the CARICOM, the Caribbean community. But Suriname
Right.
has much closer ties to the Netherlands, and they more European facing than Caribbean facing, and
Okay.
the majority of
Yeah.
Americans have never even heard of Suriname, and let alone know that it's right next to Guyana in South America, and they
Our
speak
friend
Dutch and
Maury Walsh asked about the ester level of your
Papiamento.
Jamaican. It's a money musk, and you said it was what, 200 parts, 200, 2 to 3.
Two to 300. Yeah, it's not super high. I
Yeah,
call that a medium ester or Wedderburn
can't wait for
style.
that. When can we expect that?
Um, it's going to hit our warehouse in about a week, and it should get out to
Cool.
California probably about 2 weeks after
Oh
that.
yeah,
So 3 weeks,
awesome.
I would say.
Can't wait for that. Let me know how much I can buy, and I'm in.
Yeah,
All right, brother.
you got it.
Anything else, guys, before
I'm
we say goodbye? No, it
awesome.
looks like they're satiated. All right, cool. Well, cheers, man. Be well. Let's
Fantastic.
talk soon.
Thank you so much, David.
Ciao.
Cheers.